All right, so we're going to resume with our checkout page. We did get our checkout to show. So the first things I want to do is I want to get rid of the first three sections at the top. We don't want the user entering date, username, or total. So in my checkout view, I think starting on line 16, I can get rid of these first three divs. The order date, the user ID, and the total. We're going to set these things programmatically when we save to the database. So I'm going to get rid of all of those. So lines 16 through 30 should be the exact same line numbers in yours, since we scaffolded this page. So just delete them. So the first form group has the first name. I also want to put spaces in here for first name and last name. So we can do that through our order model, because also on the order history page, we want those to show as first space name and last space name. So this file is in models. It's the order.cs file. Excuse me. So I'm going to add display name equals first name above my first name field, and I'll do the same above my last name field. Excuse me. So I've just added lines 26 and 31. And my model already says they're required, which is good. All these fields are required. So a user can't complete the checkout page unless they've given us all this information. They can't check out without providing first, last, address, city, state, postal code, and phone number. Typically in the view, so for example, we could, in the checkout view, we could probably do a type equals, I think we've got a telephone. For province, we could probably set the max length as 2 if we want. Oh. Yeah, you could. Yeah, I think we would need a regular expression here. I don't think we. Yeah. So we'll just leave that. Excuse me. Yeah, we could add a regular expression. I'll probably skip that. And here it says checkout and order. We probably don't need. I'll just take out that heading. You can just say checkout. Maybe I will actually put a little instruction on here now that I think about it. I'll put on a small heading that says all fields are required, just so the user knows. They've got to fill out everything. So I'll just go back and refresh it, have a look again. I'll go back to my cart. The other thing is this page is public. It's probably at the point when the user clicks checkout that we want to make them log in. So if they're anonymous, they can shop and put items in the cart, but once they start the checkout process, they should have to register and log in at this stage. So we'll then have this scenario. I've shopped anonymously, but now I want to check out. We'll deal with that later. For now, we'll try to get this working when we're already logged in. And then we'll deal with this scenario after. I'm an anonymous shopper. I've got items in the cart and they're attached to some random ID. And now I need to suddenly attach them to my email address once I log in. So that'll be a little more complicated. So we'll come back to that scenario. For now, probably easier if you use an account where you're logged in. So here's my cart, and if I check out, we'll just see how it looks. I think it should be done. So now we've got first and last name. Now it should be fairly simple for us to make this page private. How would we do it? So that you can't get to this page unless you're logged in. Yep. Close. What we could add something here to ensure that a user must be logged in. Yeah, we can add authorize. That makes this page private. So if a user isn't registered or logged in, they're going to have to log in. And we're missing a reference here. So we need to make a reference to Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Authorization. So now in my Firefox browser, I should be able to get to my checkout page. If I shop in Chrome where I'm anonymous, I can put stuff in the cart, but as soon as I hit checkout, it's going to prompt me. Question? I used the little helper and it suggested this reference. Yeah, this one, well, we'll try it out. We'll see. So I've got a build because we changed the controller. So I'll try it in both instances. One instance I'm logged in, the other I'm not. So go back to my cart. When I'm logged in, my cart items are still here where I'm anonymous. I'm going to have to put something in my cart because my session just got destroyed when I recompiled. Okay, so I'm logged in. So when I'm logged in, I can go to my cart and I can check out. And it takes me through because I'm already authenticated. As an anonymous user, my cart's going to be empty. So now I need to put something in it. So I want to buy my desktop, and now if I click checkout, it says, hold on, we don't know who you are. you got to log in to go any further. So for the moment, I'm just going to continue on in Firefox where I'm already logged in, because we're going to have to deal with this scenario. Like here I am in Chrome. Here's my item, but it's not yet attached to any identity. And we don't want to save this as the username. We'll want to attach it. So we'll then have to go and kind of update the username once I log in. Actually, let me think. Okay, maybe we can do that. So I'm going to make a method called migrate cart. So a user has been shopping anonymously. Well, if user has been shopping anonymously, now attach their items to their username. So if their session variable doesn't equal this is the scenario. I've been shopping and putting items in my cart as an anonymous user, so all those items are attached to some GUID. Now I've logged in. So we're comparing, is my cart username equal to my email address? If not, I've got to update all the items that are in the database. So I'm going to take my session variable and just store it in a local variable. So this will give me all the items in my cart. Well, it's a list of type cart. So in effect, it's a strongly typed array. It's not just an array of random values, it's an array of. So we're changing the username from a GUID to the user's email address for each one. Oh, I think there's one more thing I need to do. I think we need to mark each one as modified. Sorry, bear with me for a second. I just want to double check my syntax. We'll just go to the edit method in one of our other controllers. We need to do the same. Oops. Oh, we just call dot update. Whoops, sorry. I think I closed my controller. So we're basically marking it as modified, and then save changes runs the update in the database. Yeah, no, in this method's not asynchronous, it's synchronous. No, it should be okay. Would be okay either way. And then the last thing is, I may as well update my session variable now. So change the session variable from the GUID to the user's email. So we call set string on our cart username variable. So we want to call this method from our checkout method. When the user clicks checkout, as soon as they've logged in, we want to check if they've been shopping anonymously. If they haven't been shopping anonymously, nothing happens. So if they've shopped logged in, if this condition is false, so the cart username does match their username, nothing happens. The items in their cart are already attached to their email address, so we don't have to do anything. This is only in the scenario they've shopped anonymously, they've clicked checkout, and now we've asked them to log in. And they've logged in, so now we know who they are. So check if user has been shopping anonymously now that they are logged in. Excuse me. So before we load the checkout page, we will convert their shopping cart items from the random identifier to be attached to their email. Yeah, because this, yes, because this happens first, right? So first we're authenticating, right? We never even get in here until they're logged in. So yes, the header will update, then the items in the cart will update, and then they can see the checkout page. So we want to call this method every time before we show the checkout page. So if I try this in Firefox where I'm logged in, nothing should happen. But if we try it in Chrome, if we look at the database table before and after I log in, we should see that anything I put in my cart gets updated to be attached to my email address. We'll try it. Excuse me. I think our logic is okay, but we'll have to test it out. So I'll go back first in Firefox. So I've got, still have these 2 items in my cart. Just filter my query for a minute. So here's what I've got so far. And if I check out, and I run my query, my 2 items are still here attached to my email, no problem. Let's simulate this in Chrome where I'm anonymous. So there's nothing in my cart. So I'll buy one of these and one of these. So here are my 2 items. My username starts with DAD. There's my first printer and my second printer. So now I'm going to go to checkout. I'm not logged in, so it asks me to log in first. So I'll log in with a different username. Okay, I maybe don't have that account. I'll register first. So now I'll try to check out again. So here was my query before. I'll just run it in a new window. So if you notice the cart ID, this is ID 30 and 31. If I run this query in a new tab, now 30 and 31, the username has been updated from my random string. Now that I'm identified, it can attach those items to me. So I can even go to a completely different browser now. So if I want to log in here as with my customer, if I go back to my cart, notice my cart persists because now it's attached to my email address. So I can go to any computer, any browser, as long as I log in, these 2 products are attached to my shopping cart. And they'll stay in here until I check out, until I either delete them or finish an order. Yep, doesn't matter. So these 2 items, again, this is what it looked like when I was shopping anonymously. But once I logged in, once I went to my checkout page, they get converted to be tied to my email address. And this is good because the items persist. If I don't finish my checkout, I can leave the site, come back another day, log into my account, and these items are still here, which means I'm more likely to spend more money in the store, which is what the store owner wants. Okay, so we handled this. We've got checkout. We've migrated the items. Well, here's what will happen. Once we pay, we're gonna create a new order and order details record because there's a one-to-many relationship, right? Our order contains the things you see on the checkout page plus the things we hid. We'll automatically save the date, we'll calculate the total, and we'll attach the email address as the user ID. Yep. So we have in the script I gave you, so here are our tables. So the script we ran when we built the store, we've got fields for information about the order as a whole and the customers. And then we also have an order detail table for saving basically we're moving what's in the cart. If you look at the fields are almost the same, right? We have a product ID in the cart and in the order detail. We have a quantity in the cart and in the order detail. We have the price. And instead of tying the order detail to a username, we're now tying it to the order. So we're basically going to copy the items from the cart to order detail, and then we can empty out the cart. So these items, if I check out, these two items will basically get copied to order detail attached to my order number, and then we can delete the cart. So if I click on cart after I finish checking out and paying, it should show me an empty cart, right? It's not going to show me the same items again once I've paid for them. Okay, I think here's what we'll do. Because we have some time next week, we are going to integrate Stripe payments, but it's going to take us a little while to do, and there's going to be a bit of explanation. I'd rather not rush through the payment piece. So maybe what we'll do for today is we'll just make kind of like a dummy payment page where we can put in whatever we want and we can try and save the order. And then next week, we can redo the payment page where we actually send a payment off to the Stripe API and get a response. We'll leave that for next week. So what we actually need to do first is, so we've got a get method for our checkout. This displays our checkout page. So this part's working, but now we need a post method. So what happens when the user completes the checkout? Because we can't save it to the database yet. We don't want to save any order until they've paid, but the payment isn't happening on this page. So we're going to need, we have a get method for checkout. We also need a post method where we take all of the information the user enters here. We're basically going to need to store it and save it in memory and then move them along to the payment page. And it's only after payment that we put this stuff in the database. If they don't finish the payment, we don't want to save it. We don't want to save a new order and generate an order number. That only happens after payment is successful. So we have a get method here. We're going to create another checkout method that uses post. So it needs some annotations. It needs authorization. It can't submit the checkout page if you're not logged in. We also have to declare that this version uses post. We don't need to say that all these other ones use get, because get is our default method. If we don't specify, we'll always use, the server will always run get. We also want to use this on all our form posts. This validates that any requests that come into this URL are coming from our domain and not somebody else's. So somebody else can't build a form to try and hack our site and post that form to our checkout method. So now in here, we need to set up all of the input parameters, all of the fields that are coming from our checkout form. First name, last name, etc., all down to phone number. So if we have a look at some of the other create methods we've had that get scaffolded. So here, if we're creating a category, we've got HTTP post, validated our anti-forgery token, and we've got this bind with the names of the fields in our form. We're binding them to a category object. So we're going to do something similar, but we're going to bind it to a new order object. We want to create a new order, populate it from our form, and store it in memory, and then send the user off to the payment page. So we're going to do the same here. We're going to call bind. And I'm going to add in all the fields from the form. So we're going to make a new order. Bind basically maps the inputs from our view to the properties in the model. So we have an input for first name, and this automatically connects that to the first name field in our order. So it will automatically map our inputs to the appropriate places in the model. Yeah, it's strictly by name. So here's our checkout form, right? Yeah, we're doing the post method. So it connects the names of the form inputs to the properties in the model that have the exact same names. So our scaffolding already does this. We never really looked at it before. We're now manually doing what the scaffolding did in our other controllers. If you want it in the URL, you would change your method name. You would need to use a get method. Okay. So now we want to autofill the date, user ID, user, and total properties, rather than let the user fill them out. So we have a new order object, and these things are automatically populated from our form. But remember, we took 3 things out of the form. So date time dot now. Oh, sorry, it's not a method. So that gives us the current timestamp, the date and the time. We'll just attach the order to their email address. We know we have their email address because this method requires them to log in. They can't get here if they haven't already logged in. The order total is a little more complicated because now we've got to go back and use our database to calculate the total, where we've got to grab all the items in their cart, multiply quantity times price, and then add them all together. So we're going to get all the items in their cart. And fortunately, this query syntax will allow us to do this in one line, where for each item, we can multiply the price times the quantity and keep a running total, which is kind of useful. So for each item, we're going to calculate the subtotal, and then we can call dot sum. So we'll do the math for each individual item, and then it will total them all together in one line of code, which is kind of useful. And then we'll set this value as our total of our order. I also want to store this as a session variable because we're going to need it on our payment page. We're going to need to include the amount that the user's paying when we send that off to the payment gateway. Now notice when I call set, we got to have a little bit of an issue here. The ASP.NET Core session object's kind of limited. It allows me to set an integer or it allows me to set a string. Well, the cart total isn't an integer. If we set it as an integer, it's going to ignore any cent values. If our cart is $99.99, if we call set int, the value is going to be stored just as 99.00. There isn't actually a way to set a double at the moment. So what we'll do is I'll just set the cart total as a string for now, because that will at least keep the cents. So we're going to create a new session variable called cart total. So we can use this value on the payment page. And I have to convert this to a string. Now here's the other issue. We now have this order object that has all of the fields from our checkout form, and then it has the three values we've calculated: the date stamp, who the user is, and the total. We want to store this in the session as well, because we don't want to save it to the database yet. Remember, they haven't paid. So if we save to the database now, it's going to generate a new order number, and then maybe the user either stops the process or can't give us a valid payment. So there's no point. We don't want to save this to our order table yet. We want to take them off to the next page. The problem is we need to keep the information about the order in memory. The session doesn't let us store an object like this. So we're going to need to do a little bit of manipulation of how we can store this order in memory and pass it along to the next page. So when they do finally pay successfully, we can then take all these values and save them to the database. Okay. I'll try and show, that was the long version. Here's the short version. We can't save this stuff yet because we need to go to another page. Problem is, if we go to another page, we're losing all the information we need. Could we store it in the view bag or in local storage? I hadn't thought about local storage. Yes, that's true. We could, because then they could modify the total, potentially. That might be problematic. Who suggested the view bag? Tyler, did you suggest it? Maybe. The other thing we can do, although I think maybe we'll stop here because it's a bit complicated. There is an extension. A developer wrote an extension for when you want to store something in the session object other than an integer or a string. It will allow us to store a complex object in the session, which the .NET Core session doesn't on its own. So I think we'll probably want to use that extension, but it'll take us a little bit to configure. So I'll just make a note here. We'll need an extension. So at the start of class next week, we'll add this extension in. So then we can store the order in the session object. Then we can load our payment page and make a call to the Stripe payment gateway. Then we should be able to save the order, show a confirmation, build an order history, and order details with scaffolding. That's basically what this extension does. It converts any object to JSON. So we can do it that way and basically stores it so it stores the JSON object. I will add one last thing here, which we'll need at the end. It's okay. You don't have to open your computer back up. So eventually, what we're going to do is redirect to a payment action. Just so my code will compile. So after we store the order information in memory, we'll take them to a payment page and we'll build this view next week. If I don't have this return statement, my code wouldn't build. Okay, so there's no quiz next week, but we should be able to finish this. And just a reminder, your assignment 2A is due next Monday. Okay, I'll push everything up for you guys. Hope you have a good week. Yeah.